Before we start, I must disclose that this image was AI generated by YouTube. And it's not the first image I wanted to use, but when you go to ask the tool to create an image, it only lets you do a recording for 60 seconds. So it's gone in 60 seconds. Much like many women's careers in pornography. Now, this AI generated image is proof that if you're a woman, do not start an OnlyFans out of desperation. And I'm forgiving, I am, of women if you happen to watch this video and you've stopped masturbating on camera for money, or you've stopped being promiscuous. I'm forgiving, but I'm not going to forget that you did it. It's hard to erase that from your memory once you know. And knowledge is power. And what I see in the behavior is, across the entire diaspora of behaviors in the group think that for which on either side of the egalitarian or equality debate and discourse is that women have an inferiority complex. Women seem to think that they have something to prove. And unfortunately, sooner or later, we all run out of talking points and material, and then it becomes this contest, a race to the bottom, in which our human nature overrides our higher pursuits of enlightenment. Now, if you're a philosophy student and you recognize the references for which I'm making, then I need to make no explanation. My uncle once told me, he said this to me, he said, baffle them with brilliance and dazzle them with bullshit, and then they'll never know how smart you truly are. And this is by no means, this video, or the things that I say in it, is by no means directed at anyone in particular, and I mean this sincerely. I am currently preoccupied by other things than making YouTube videos, or by speaking out against certain subcultures that believe that having sexual relationships with thine own kin is of priority to anything else, and of premier importance as the contentious issue of our culture as it is in the year 2025. And I'm starting to see, or at least I noticed this long before, the burnout in which is happening amongst, say, the talking heads, in which the cultural critics, which have shifted from publishing things in established media sources, such as newspapers or television, the old world media, or even on YouTube itself, or X or Twitter. Again, I would call this the second world, or the post-internet 2.0 media, which again simplified is social media, and the the language, of course, changes with the format of distribution. And this is a famous or infamous talking point or line from I think it's not The Network, right? It's a very old movie, but it was a Canadian production in which they said the medium is the message. So the monoculture established a one-way conversation in which only the sensationalists or the educated got published in the editorials. That hasn't really changed, except now some people call it democratization. Some would call it the pornification of media, in which this old perception, because it is now, it's pretty tired, right? The Aldous Huxley versus Orson Welles dichotomy, but that's like middle school tier in in the way of thinking about how to perceive the world. And unfortunately, there are many casualties in this dominance fight, and we cannot escape our animal tendencies. And the thing that I see or that I feel from women, I said this to my sister earlier, women are bombarded with so many, not just opponents and critics, but possible suitors, that they are the first victims of burnout. Whereas men are the victims of exhaustion. And this doesn't, I'm not saying this as, in the victimhood mentality, but they are the real world, or the behaviors and the attitudes are the real world results, of course, of overexposure and of a sunburn, right? In which you've been the Icarus thing. You get too close to the sun, you get burned, and then you fall back to Earth, and then you try to find a way to learn to fly again. And this is, of course, the pattern for which the old world media celebrities, we used to, at least in pop culture, to obsess with them within the monoculture. But then it becomes a larger phenomenon, and hence why people, at least by my own theory, this is why people began. No. This isn't really a theory. This is a true observation in which the stupidest of us were performing sensationalist stunts, or stupid things that would put them on the list for the Darwin Awards, just to get views. And I could see this is what one of my comments was in one of my pontifications with the death of transgenderism, which is that which transgenderism is a social trend, and it becomes this dominance thing of queer elitism in order to be a threat to straight people. But that in itself is, idiosyncratic, because you're basically assuming the same performative gender roles that for which the theorists and the women's studies people and the sociologists were speaking about, anyways. You know, I don't have any more else to comment on it. But what I'm really trying to say here is that a woman's worth, from a man's perspective, or at least mine, a woman is, as an assessment, right? As a logical, and as a uh, an evaluation of passion, right? Am I going to put an emotional investment into this woman, right? I don't suffer the weakness of trying to quantify everything through a matrix of decisions, or through a process of switches, in which a procedure, a checklist, a pre-flight or pre-launch checklist, gets a woman into my pants. Or if I'm a woman, vice versa. Okay, if he does this, he does that, he has this, he has that, then he gets in my pants. And I have experienced hundreds, if not thousands, of rejections. And again, this is an observation of the fallout of dating apps, in which I am absolutely unenthusiastic about. And when I tell the truth, to the first woman that shows interest in me and makes all the right moves, the first moves, shows some confidence, and then she asks for a picture, and I don't give her the most beautiful picture in the world, right? It's not an AI generated image of myself. It's not like I'm on the cover of Men's Health, with being brushed by Photoshop. It's not like my voice has been altered by autotune. I am who I am. But that honesty and that vulnerability is intimidating, yet fascinating. Um, but as my phone buzzes, but the quantification of a woman from a man's perspective is something like this. And again, this is what I was trying to say to my, or trying to say earlier before I went on this little um this little side topic, is that what good is a woman to me if she has a PhD or she's a sex worker? If she ignores me, she ignores me. And that women in their 30s, because I'm in my 30s, I'm in my late 30s, are either in a place where they have trust issues, or they're lesbians. And both of those things are seriously frustrating and annoying. Right? I'm so tired, as I said, of having to deal with the cascade effect, this trickle down theory of attractiveness, in which the end result is basically, again, this is a bit of a crackpot theory or observation, is to get people within Western civilization to stop having children. And if I were to allude to a particular group of people with certain religious beliefs, it's because they're entirely terrified of the truth getting out about a certain conflict that happened in the first half of the 21st century, that was caused by a number of incursions, manipulations, and subversions over the previous 400 years, because of a central banking family that wanted to dominate the culture and wanted to stop the filthy ones from having children because they were not chosen by God, and yet they were. So again, they're terrified of a new leader rising from the ashes and exposing them for who they are. And sunlight is a great disinfectant. And that is truly terrifying. Now all these people, this mafia means family, who have been plotting and playing this long game over generations to remain on the top of the dog pile so that they don't have to do manual labor, because manual labor is for the lost souls, right? Manual labor is for the lost souls, and for the intellectual pursuits are closest to God. And they've been using the vices of humanity for hundreds of years to trap people and to send them to the ninth circle of hell. In the ninth circle of hell is betrayal. And there's no greater betrayal than to those of your own family or of your own culture or of your own sex. Because if you read history for what it is just that. It is a continuous drama of culturally relevant events in which the fights between who does the labor, who makes the decisions, who has the babies, and so on and so forth. And you know, it's depressing to think about humanity in such small minded qualification, not just quantification. Because when the bombs fell and everyone saw the power of the sun, you know, it wasn't just a Houdini moment. Oh, let's just drop the bombs and make all the evidence disappear. It was, you know, it was a game changer. And, you know, again, sunlight is a great disinfectant. And what this really exposes, again, is the vulnerability and the insecurity of women. Because if they were truly confident and they were truly strong, we wouldn't be having this conversation. When we lust after things that are beyond our capacity and beyond our place in the world. Again, I'm thinking about a video in which it was talking about diners, you know, the diners, and how New Jersey had the most diners in all of the United States. And that it's a laborious thing to run a diner. And, you know, most of these diners, a lot of them were prefabricated. They were cheap, right? They used to be on wheels, right? They were food carts or they were food vans that put down foundations and then became restaurants. And they served traditional American meals. You know, you could have chicken and waffles, you could have bacon and eggs and a coffee with toast. You could have pancakes, or you could have eggs Benedict, or you could have fries and a burger and a Coke from a soda jerk. But as soon as they sent their children off to college or to university, one of the owners said what he said is that I overeducated my children. They don't want anything to do with this. They want nothing to do with this. So that's a great reminder, is that our genders are not just performative, and that sex is free, but intimacy is not. And if you ignore a man because you're burnt out, that's on you. That's on you. You know, it's on you for masturbating to too much porn, or to going to a sex club, or to having a drug habit and not seeking help. That's on you, right? That's not on the culture. That's not on the individual, right? No matter what position in your life, if you don't have the mental fortitude to endure the torture that for which other people subject you to, then you're not going to succeed in life, and you're probably not going to find a romantic partner that's worthy of you, and that you are worthy of them. Because it takes strength and determination of character, not just physical attraction, to be a powerful person. And that's the mistake of these elitists, is that they took on this toxic femininity, or they started championing these subversive elements that disrupted the families and the power structures, so that they could come in and provide a solution and make themselves into heroes. You know who the hero is in this image? The photographer.